I was brought up in a village in the southeast of England in a beautiful county called Kent, and we had a village of 150 people. A church, 2 pubs, of course, very, very important for 150 people. But I had the comfort, and I call it comfort, I had the comfort of a village. That importance of belonging and knowing everybody was actually really, really important, I think, in my upbringing. I'll never forget when I first worked in London. My first ever job, I was talking to a lady at work, and she said, "Oh, isn't it lonely living in a small little village in the middle of nowhere?" And I said, "No, not at all." And I said, "Where do you live?" And she said she lived in Wembley, which is North London. And I was talking about how I knew all my neighbours and that sort of thing, and she lived in this flat for 4 years and had never met and spoken to her neighbours. And I said, "Well, who's the lonely?" So for me, I quite like the fact that there's about a sense of place and a sense of connection. That's why I've really been quite fascinated with this whole concept, because I know how well villages can work. That sense of community, the sense of belonging, and a kind of the sense of people understanding you, talking to you, listening to you.
What appealed to me initially, I mean, when I read the book, I just fell in love with it. I miss the romance. I used to travel a lot around the world, and, you know, Santorini was one of my favourite places to go. So this almost was a replica of that, but with the modern element to it as well. I love the idea of being able to come out of my private sort of place that I've designed and then be in amongst my family members, and, you know, could be friends, associates, anyone that I consider family, and have meals together. We spend a lot of time and wasted energy doing a lot of things we really don't need to do to have a quality of life. The village offers you and enables that experience to be had.
What I'm aware of through the way I've travelled in the last few years is that housing world populations, while still preserving an acceptable quality of life, is a massive design challenge. You know, we're starting to see 3,000 unit towers, which are effectively housing small towns. But the quality of life that I'm seeing going on inside of those towers is sad. It doesn't invigorate the human spirit. It calls on people to behave in a way that I think is not consistent with the way that we were designed. I have a strong belief in architecture as a way of enabling the individual to engage in the world on terms that are meaningful to him or herself, and which affirm some of those values which I think are important to the survival of culture, but not only that, are important to the survival of the planet.
Things that excite me about the village are, number one was the popsicle index. How many parents can feel safe having their children walk to the local store in current suburbia, and very few hands go up. And then, you know, the memory of when it was safe for everyone to allow their children to just walk anywhere. I certainly grew up in that kind of environment, and we disappeared all day and nobody worried about us because we felt safe and parents felt safe. So that's huge for me. Another thing for me is the creativity that I see that this village opens up. These guild halls for the different artistries, and the artistry meaning not just the dancers, the painters and so on, the engineers, all of those fields of artistry also excited me, especially when combined with the concept that the village becomes the classroom. We have removed mastery, people who have passion and mastery for their thing, what they love doing. Children are no longer exposed to them in school, and I believe that's a huge mistake.
I was driving through a suburb yesterday, and what I noticed was there's lots and lots of houses and neatly designed layouts, etc., but the place felt dead and there was hardly any people walking about, and those that were walking about seemed to be solitary. So I imagine a culture of a village would be vibrant and active, so there'd be, you just get a sense there'd be a lot of movement and a lot of rhythm, just because of the close proximity, but also how that stimulates people to get out, meet, walk, talk, and not jump in the cars and be isolated from the isolation of the house into the isolation of the car into the isolation of the shopping mall lanes. So I just imagine it to be moving, vibrant, and colourful, and yeah, spontaneous. That I can imagine sort of street discussions or buskers suddenly just appearing on a corner and playing drums or a guitar and a little crowd gathering. And so just imagine almost constant rolling of energy and action within a village. Also get a sense that life would feel more meaningful. And I don't mean anything too philosophical about that, but again, when I drove through the suburb the other day, it just felt like something had gone wrong. That, what's the point of living like this when we've got other options? Human beings are creative enough to provide alternatives. So I just got a sense to be more, you'd feel like you were participating in something. So the culture would feel more meaningful rather than, I often wonder whether the suburbs and the way we live our lives in suburbs it's not so much meaning driven but more outcome driven. So what I mean by that is we're delaying gratification to get the job, to reach the right promotion, to get enough money to get a holiday, to get out of the suburb, and everything feels like it's delayed. Whereas in the village everything isn't delayed, it's instant. You'd be instantly walking and talking and mixing with other people, and I just think that intensity would create a culture of sort of real vibrancy.
I'm taking on suburbs. I'm saying suburbs are obsolete. We shouldn't be building them anymore. We shouldn't be building shopping malls. We shouldn't be building industrial parks. Clear it out of the way. And to do that, we're going to turn real estate development upside down.
You would need to read how to build a village. It's not, there's a lot of, village ideas out there. But this encompasses so much more. Look, I would just read the book. That's all I have to say. Read the book, be inspired, and then get engaged and come live in the village.